What's good, family? It's your boy Big L. Uh, it's a couple of things I want to be able to address real quick, but I really want to focus on one. We see the situation with the young lady, the young student down in South Carolina. Uh, we see her. We see her being assaulted. We see her being abused. We see her being slammed to the ground, thrown to the ground by a white police officer. Now, I mentioned the race of the police officer intentionally because it plays a huge factor in this story. This was a little black girl who, in the eyes of the white police officer and his superiors, was resisting arrest. Hence the reason why she was treated in such a manner as she was. Nowhere in any of the videos that we've seen have we seen her resisting arrest. Now, what we have seen is her arms flailing in response to him grabbing her and trying to manhandle her in the manner that would he essentially did manhandle her. Uh, but one of the things that has been really, really telling about this situation is how so many black people have refused to call this a racial incident, uh, and flipped it and essentially say things such as, if she would have just did what the cops said, then she would have never been in this situation. I say, as someone who has worked with youth for a number of years in a variety of settings, from juvenile detention to sex offenders facilities, from juvenile homeless shelters, from being a juvenile drill instructor in a juvenile justice center, to working in a group home. I have a number of years from being a instructional assistant slash teacher's aide in an alternative school. I have tons of years of experience in dealing with children in a variety of different settings and a variety of different stages, developmental and behavioral. So there is certain things that you are taught as someone who is dealing with children. There are certain things, and one of the things that you're taught is how to de-escalate a situation without harming yourself or the person who is escalated. And these are trainings and things that are taught by the police. I'm sure firemen, anyone who is dealing with John Q. Public in that type of setting is taught these type of de-escalation techniques. This white police officer chose to completely eliminate any of those. He did not use any de-escalation technique except going in and being physical with her. Now, I've heard people try to essentially justify his usage of force. And I'm thinking to myself and saying it out loud, there's no justifiable reason for him to have put his hands on her at all in that situation. She was not a threat to herself. She was not a threat to others. She was not doing any property damage. She was not breaking or harming anyone. There were other steps that he could have implemented in order to get that situation calm and resolved. He chose to use the most violent and vicious means of de escalation. The reason why he was able to do it is because, for one, he has been using that same type of methods and same type of behaviors on students for years. He has a record, a history, and even a nickname. He, if I'm not mistaken, he was, called Officer Slam because of his behavior and the way that he dealt with black students when they were quote unquote escalated. This man should have been fired and prosecuted a long time ago. But what we see, even with this incident with this young girl, we see his superiors come out and attempt to do two things. Now, one of which you should know already, you should already be aware of. One of which is they automatically try to dehumanize the victim. We've seen it with Trayvon. They automatically wanted to attribute some type of criminal history to him. We see the same thing taken with Eric Gardner. They want to say that the fact that he was selling illegal cigarettes, that he deserved it. He was talking back to the police officer. He didn't comply. We see the same thing happening with Tamar, to the point where they even went with Tamar to try to bring in his stepfather's criminal past. We see them do the same thing to Sandra Bland. That is part of that is, matter of fact, that is standard operating procedure of white supremacy to criminalize and dehumanize the victim as a way of basically saying they're not human anyway, they deserve to be treated any way that we, who believe that we are superior and supreme to them, are able to treat them. That's the message that is sent out by them doing it. And the second thing is, which is something that is rather new to many people, but has happened all throughout generations, is they try to attach the perpetrator to a black person by saying things along the lines of they have a black friend, or a black friend will come out in support. Remember when Hulk Hogan came out after he got caught with the, yelling out nigger and, all his racist white supremacy tactics and speech and patterns. And you had black people come out immediately and defend him. I mean, matter of fact, my man, Dennis Rodman came out and was on some, no, he helped me out when I was down, he bailed me out, violin playing type foolishness, as a way of somehow saying, no, he's not a racist. This is just a racist incident. Let me tell you something. There's no such thing as racist incidents. There are racists having incidents, meaning that they are just allowing their inward white supremacist racist thought process and methodology to come out in a particular situation. So in this situation with this officer, the doggone his superiors came out and said, well, he's been dating an African American woman for a long time, so there's no way that this could be racist. As if where you place your penis or what goes in your vagina somehow eradicates racism, white supremacy. Be mindful of these tactics that white supremacy uses. Now, the question is, and there's another dynamic here too that I was really, really pissed off about, was the fact that there was what looks to be a black male teacher in the class. A black male teacher stood by and watched a little black girl be violated. That black male teacher is a coward. Based off, and I don't want, and I call him a coward in general, and not just say he was being cowardly at the moment, because based off of the environment that black people are in this country currently, our plight, there's no way that you cannot possibly work in the field with children and not realize that your children and your people are under attack. You have to be aware of that. So you have to be constantly vigilant in protecting and creating an environment where they're not victims. So when the opportunity comes in for you to protect them and to watch over them, you seize that opportunity and you rise, because that's what we're supposed to do. He failed. He failed. He doesn't deserve to be getting. He doesn't deserve for people to take him off the hook. He doesn't deserve to have a way out. He doesn't deserve to be looked at in a different light. He needs to be looked at as someone who should have coward stamped on his forehead. What a situation. And I encourage you, the viewer, the listener, man, to get to a point with this, man, where you begin to realize and say, hey, how do black people get to a point where we provide, when we're proactive to these things, when we're not reactionary, when we're proactive, how can we avoid these potential situations in the future? These are discussion questions that you should be having with your homies. While we're sitting here showing our outrage on social media, the question should be, what can we do to prevent this from taking place ever again? How can we protect our children? What do we do? And I have ideas, but I want you to begin to ask yourself that. What could we have done differently? What can we do to protect our children from these type of things? What do you think? Chime in. Let me know what your thoughts are, man. It's your boy Big L with another Foreign Blast, man. As always, stay safe, stay vigilant, stay diligent, stay focused. Black First, family.